Good evening, everyone. Here for the Tuesday, June 15th, 2021 virtual workshop for the TPO's Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. My name is Kevin Walford, and I am the BPAC coordinator, and I'm being charged of this evening's workshop. Next slide, please. On the agenda you see on the screen, I'm going to go over the rules of engagement, and then we're going to have 5 presentations. One from Miami-Dade RER mobility fees. One next on Miami-Dade pros for the LUDLAM Trail Corridor. Then DTPW's Dadeland South Intermodal Station Project. And then the monthly reports of both DTPW and FDOT District 6. Next slide, please. All right, so I'm going to go over the rules of engagement. This workshop is being held virtually and being recorded. If you experience technical difficulties, please contact Lisa 1 at the number and the email you see on the screen so she can assist you. All attendees remain muted throughout the duration of this workshop. If you wish to provide a comment, please use the raise hand button. The chair will first acknowledge you when your microphone is unmuted. Will be unmuted. Please proceed by first providing your full name, agency represented, and then your comment. Your microphone will remain unmuted until the comment has been fully addressed. As we do not currently have a chairperson for the BPAC, me being the coordinator represents the chair. In compliance with all applicable rules and regulations, no actions or motions shall be permitted. Discussion shall be limited to matters listed in the public workshop agenda. Permissible discussions include presentations, questions and answers, comments related to the presentation. Any committee member deviating from these guidelines will be reminded as to limitations on any such discussion. Please hold comments until presentations are concluded. Next slide. All right, so the first presentation we're going to be is the Miami-Dade County Mobility Fee Study, and that was going to be done by Vinod Sandasamy. And Lisa, go ahead and unmute Vinod. Vinod, you're up.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. This is Vinod Sandasamy from RER Planning. A brief about the mobility fee, why we are doing this, and how it has come about. Earlier, we used to call this as roadway impact fee. And you know, this is for all new developments. And we used to collect fees for the impact the new developments have on our roadways. So since then, you know, our planning strategies have changed. Initially, we used to plan land uses geared towards cars. Now our planning is more towards multimodal development, multimodal transportation. So based on the new land use policies, you know, we want to have a multimodal impact fee. We call that as a mobility fee, which will be not only for roadways, it's going to be for transit and bike and pedestrian infrastructure. So next slide. So this, as I said, this is going to be a one-time fee. It's going to be proportionate to the transportation improvements that are needed to serve the demand generated by any new development. And this fee has to be consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan and the transportation, the long-range transportation plan. So the adopted comprehensive plan has got multiple land use strategies. So we try to be consistent with these two major plans. Next slide. As you could see, the current roadway impact fee was adopted in 1988. It's been about 30 years. since we did a total overall of the fee. What we have been doing so far has been like adjusting the fee to inflation and adding some, making some small changes. But a full overall has not been done so far. This is the first time we are taking a shot at that. As I said, the county's land use policies initially in the 80s were more geared towards roads. Now we are having more multimodal oriented policies that promote compact mixed use developments. We have different urban centers along major transportation corridors. And also we are exploring ways to align the fee structure with the land use and also the transportation plan. The one thing we are trying to do is trying to have differential fees for different geographic areas. Like, for example, near the downtown, the fee is going to be more towards transit. And as you go outside, it might be more road oriented. And it's all going to be based on the modal split the different areas have. And we get this information from the SERPA model, which the TPO maintains. Next slide, please. So this fee, mobility fee, is something that it's not new. It's come recently, but other jurisdictions have gone this route. As you could see, Jacksonville, Tampa, Sarasota, all these places, they have adopted mobility fee. But the major difference is going to be from what we are doing now is they are not so comprehensive like what we are. They still don't have fees split into transit and pedestrian. Only that they are collecting a fee, but using it for pedestrian and transit infrastructure. But what we are doing now is a more comprehensive fee. And it's understandable because none of those jurisdictions have the kind of transit that we have. So we are doing a major overhaul. Next slide, please. So the objectives of this study are, to supplement funding for all travel modes. Before, we used to supplement funding only for roads. Now we are going to get funding for transit, pedestrian, and bike facilities. So this fee will be consistent to our growth management policies and also our transportation plans. And also this fee is going to be more flexible on how we are going to spend the money. So before the mobility fee, we had the roadway impact fee. We can only spend the fee at a location where we collect the fee. For example, let us say if we collect the roadway impact fee in the downtown areas, then we can spend that money in the downtown areas. But since the whole transportation system has changed so much, we have transit coming from the west to downtown. We are trying to make this fee, spending this fee more flexible, such that we could collect at one location and spend it in different areas across the county. And also we want to make this fee very simple. We don't want developers coming with new developments to submit some very complicated transportation studies to calculate the fee. We want to make this simple. And on top of everything, there is a legal requirement that we have to meet, and that is called as rational nexus. Rational nexus simply says the impacts created by the development and the improvements and the transportation improvements that are needed for the impacts should be tantamount. There has to be a rational nexus. Next slide, please. So let's go to the calculation framework. Before I go into calculation, I have to say something. We talk a little bit about the land use policies that the county has. We do have urban development boundary, which doesn't allow us to encourage development outside the urban development boundary. And then within the urban development boundaries on the major corridors, we do have urban centers, which has been divided into regional urban centers, which are really big urban centers. And then we have a smaller circle urban centers, which are called as metropolitan urban centers. And then we have a very local level urban centers called as community urban centers. And then, that's on the land use side. And on the transportation side, we do have, currently we have the metro rail, which is a 25-mile rapid transit system. And to complement that, we are on the process of planning for a smart plan of 6 rapid transit corridors, which will essentially extend the metro rail across our county. And already in 2019, we amended the comprehensive plan to allow for higher intensity of developments at the new smart plan stations. It would allow about 125 dwelling units per acre, half a mile around the new transit stations. And then it would allow for higher intensity on the smart plan, quarter mile and half mile from the smart plan corridors, about 60 dwelling units per acre. So essentially, we do have the rational nexus. We have to meet the legal requirements. We have to align the fees to the plans and policies that we have. And we want to make a very simple fee structure, which would help the multimodal level of service. I don't know. I just want to say, I don't think we have the map here, but currently we have developed a map which divides the whole county into 4 rings. We have the downtown area we call the inner ring. The highly urbanized areas outside the downtown we call the inner fringe ring. And then to the west, we call it as the middle ring. And the south county, we call it as the outer ring. So we have divided the whole county into 4 rings for our new mobility fee. So coming to the calculation, I just wanted to give a brief background about what we have done in this mobility fee. Coming to the calculations of the mobility fee, as you could see here, the first row looks at the roadway impact fee, the fees that you would charge for the impacts on the roadway. As you could see, first we see what is the development is and how many trips they generate. Let's say you have 10 dwelling units, 10 single family homes. So the ITE trip generation manual says each single family home will generate about 10 trips. So you'll be getting 100 trips for 10 units. And then we calculate what will be the length of each trip. It's approximately about 7 miles. Each trip is about 7 miles. So you have 100 trips multiplied by 7 miles, which is like 700 miles. And then we divide it by the capacity of the roadway per mile, the mile capacity of the roadway. Then we see what the impact is. This gives us an idea of the impact that the new development has generated. And then we multiply by this percentage of impact to the net roadway cost to build 1 mile of roadway improvement. That's how we come up with the roadway fee. That's how we were doing earlier for the roadway fee. Now we have a transit. We calculate the person miles traveled for transit. So for, as I told you, there are like 4 rings. In each ring, we have what is the split of the mode, what percentage of the trips are cars, and what percentage are transit, and what percentage are bike, and what percentage is pedestrians. So we apply these percentages, and then we come up with the trips. Then we see what is the person mile travels for the transit and the walk bike. We see what is the capacity of the per mile capacity of each transit train, and then what will be the cost of 1 seat in train, and what will be the cost of 1 mile of bike or pedestrian infrastructure. That's how we calculate the transit and the bike fee. So we add all these 3 fees: roadways, transit, and bike, and that will be the total mobility fee. Next slide, please. So what all this says is, as I said, there are 4 rings. So this modal split is going to be different in these 4 rings. For example, in the downtown area, the ring 1, it's going to be more transit. Then in ring 2, the transit percentage might come down, and ring 3, it comes down further. What was interesting was, we saw in ring 4, the transit percentage was more in ring 4 than ring 3. So essentially, we are going to see the modal split, and then we are going to calculate the mobility fee for these different rings. Next slide, please. So this is the graph. We got this from the SERPA model, which the TPO maintains. This is a transportation model which looks at the land uses for in 2045, and then it sees the different trips which goes from different zones, and then it gives us what percentage of the trip is auto, what percentage is transit, and walk and bike. As you could see here, in the downtown area, the auto trips are lesser, and it keeps going up and up for in the outer areas. And interestingly, as you could see, for the ring 4, the auto trips are lesser than the ring 3. And also you could see for transit, it's high in the downtown area, and then it keeps going down in the outer areas. And then for ring 4, it's a little bit higher. So that's something we noticed from the model. Next slide, please. So this is a very close-up picture of the earlier slide. It just gives you an understanding of the breakup of the transit trips in the different areas, in the different rings. Next slide, please. So as I said, for the roadway, how the roadway fee is calculated, for the bike ped fees, we have the capacity of the bike per mile of sidewalk and bike lane. This capacity we got from FHWA. It's based on some research done in New York City. And then we have the level of service manual, LOS manual, we use to calculate the capacity. So next slide, please. So you see from the level of service manual, for different level of service, letter grades A, B, C, D, E, and F, you have the number of bikers and pedestrians, based on which we can say this is the level of service. Next slide, please. So this slide gives you an idea of, what is the cost of building a mile of sidewalk. with sidewalk and bike path on the road. How much does it cost per mile? And we calculated that, and then we gave credits for the funding which is already there. The long range transportation plan does have funding, some funding for bikes and sidewalks. So we put that down as credits and deducted it from the total cost to see the impacts on the pedestrian and bike infrastructure. Next slide. And this is also a similar thing. The level of service we took was C for all these infrastructure, and then it gives an idea of how within the smart plan corridor, what's the percentage of bikes, the modal split, and outside the smart plan corridor, what are the different percentages. Next slide, please. So this is the spreadsheet that has been developed for mobility fee. Earlier, if you see on the right hand side of the spreadsheet, it used to be only roadways before. Now we have, if you see, we have transit and walk bike. So this is the addition we have done to the mobility fee, and this spreadsheet has been developed by our consultants. So next slide, please. So yeah, this gives a closer look at the the earlier slide. As I said, the percentages, it gives you a better idea of what the person miles are traveled. If a bike trip or a walk trip is generated by a single family home, what will be the length of the distance that they will bike or walk, as you could see there, and what is the net cost of the capacity mile, and how much is the mobility fee. Next slide, please. So yeah, basically, as I told you, we started this process back in the end of 2019. Somewhere in December or November, we started it. And we did have one technical advisory committee and one workshop in person in January and February of 2020. And after that, we went virtual. So the plan is to, per schedule, we should be completing this mobility fee study in a couple of months. Probably by end of July, we should be complete with this. And then, we have to go through the next process. The next process is going to be to take it to the board and get this mobility fee adopted. The one thing why I'm making a presentation to you guys is there is a good chance that you guys will be involved in at least, now we are going to collect this mobility fee. In the previous years, it's, as I told you, it was only roadway impact fee. And we have been approximately, our collections per year has been about $100 million. So I'm just thinking, taking that $100 million, now it's going to be, we used to spend all that money on roads. Now in future, we are going to split it, roads, transit, and bike ped. And I don't know how much money, how many $1 million will be allocated for bike ped. So we'll have a pot of money for bike and ped infrastructure. So we might come to this committee to get projects. Probably you guys might have to prioritize the bike ped projects for so that we could spend the mobility fee money on it. So no, I mean, it might be like a year or two from now, because it might take for some time for it to get adopted by the board. and then we have to get our internal system updated, because we have to totally update our software and hardware for this. And also, put it live to the public. So I'm thinking it might take a year or two, for it to really become operational. So that's where we stand, and we will be coordinating with you in the future for the development of the bike ped infrastructure. With that, our consultants for this project is Renaissance Planning, and Chris Sinclair is the project manager. And from the county side, I'm the project manager, and you can ask me or my director Jerry Bell, under whose guidance we are doing this study. If you have any questions, email us. We could answer your questions. And even now, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me.
Thank you very much, Vinod. So now we're going to go to the question and answer session to see if anyone has any questions. Let's see who we have on the chat. Bear with me for a second, please.
No problem.
Okay. All right. So we have a question from Ellie Quigley. It says, do new developers still have to pay a water impact fee?
Do they have to pay a water impact fee?
Do new developers still have to pay a water impact fee?
I guess so. This is totally not connected with the water or fire or police or school. This is only for transportation.
Okay. And let's see if anybody else is.
Hello, Eric Goldberg.
Go ahead, Eric.
Hey, Eric.
Hello. Did you get the long email I sent through Mr. Wolford?
No, I did not get any email from you, Eric.
Oh, okay. Well, it would have been a lot easier to discuss it, but basically, my point is the 2045 long-range transportation plan is basically considering how much money we have and then dividing it up among the projects. And the bike ped projects are nowhere near completely funded. So when you're basing something on the LRTP, you're not getting a full view of the needs of bike ped versus those of roads and those of transit. Now, you really have to look at what is required rather than what is anticipated to be spent. So the other thing is that developers should be able to get credit for building a path in front of their own building. In some cases, we've had places where paths were planned, but nobody told the developer, so the developer just built a plain sidewalk, and of course, then we have to go back again and put in a path. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Next.
I think that makes sense for the developer to get a credit. I mean, if they would not have put the sidewalk, I mean, if that's part of the site plan, I guess they need to get a credit, like how we are giving credits now for roadway infrastructure within the site. So we will look at it. I think that should be part of the thing.
Okay, Kevin, could you send me the gentleman's email so I can send my email directly to him, or on the other hand, just send it to him?
Okay.
So if
no-
you could see the last slide, the slide on the screen, it gives my email ID. The last slide, yeah. So you can just send it to me. Yeah. As tough as it
okay.
is to pronounce my name, I think you can write it down.
I'll forward you his questions, Vinod. If I forwarded a couple of his
Okay.
questions to other departments. I guess I must have missed on yours, but that's not a problem. All
Okay.
right. So a couple more. Eli, I'm going to promote you, allow you to talk, and also Noel Cleland, I'm going to allow you to talk. So you had your hand raised. Go ahead, Noel.
Okay, Leonard, thank you for giving
No
us an
problem.
account
Pleasure. My pleasure.
for how to factor in all of these different ways of coming up with a mobility fee. But what I was interested in is trying to figure out how that formula should account for the intangible costs that a city has to deal with an auto-centric environment. And I listed some of them here, being the fact that obviously automobiles cause a lot more traffic deaths than any other form of transportation. The additional pollution that comes out of fossil fuel burning cars, and which also increases our society's carbon footprint, which is going to cause problems for generations to come trying to deal with climate change. Obviously, our personal health is affected as we become more sedentary, and as we build an autocentric city, it encourages us inherently to be lazier with our transportation. And then the stress of traffic. I mean, you don't hear road rage from people riding bicycles, at least not very often. So when we start talking about this formula, it seems to be based upon the cost to build and I guess maintain. But when I look at the hidden costs that society has to continue to bear because of its autocentric, then I'm not sure how we're supposed to be able to take that into account.
As I said in the presentation, we have a legal requirement that is the rational nexus. We don't have too much elbow room on that. The legal requirement, the rational nexus, clearly tells us the transportation improvement must be proportional to the impact generated by the new development. So I understand what you're saying. I understand your concern, but yeah, we are bound by the legal requirement.
Anything else, Noel, or?
Well,
Oh.
I understand the legal requirement, but I'm just looking at the formula, which is, when we use a formula, it makes it great to use a spreadsheet and be able to calculate 1 mile versus 10 miles versus, but to me, the legal requirement would still allow to weight, to provide a different weighting for those intangible costs, because it's still going to be a cost for the city. And so for us to ignore those intangible costs, I think doesn't serve the formula very well.
I totally agree with you. I mean, the courts have not been tested on these intangible costs, what you're talking about, the health of the being, and, the fact that you're saying, autos are making us more lazy, and, it's giving to other issues, and, the carbon footprint is getting spoiled because of cars. And there's a cost we are paying for all that. I totally agree with you. But these things have not been tested in the court. So I can let my attorney know about this. Can we include the intangible costs? I can ask him about it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next, Eli.
Hi, thank you, Vinod. Another great
Hey,
presentation.
Eli, how are you?
Good, I'm great. Thank you again. Very informative. I really appreciate your work on this. So my question is, I submitted in the chat, I don't know if you could see it, but, understanding that we're going to have, an undetermined percentage of the mobility fee that will be going to ped bike infrastructure, and I understand that's yet to be determined. My question is, regardless of what that percentage is, have you guys devised how it's likely to be distributed to ped bike infrastructure and projects? Is it going to be placed in a single pot, sort of the way the city of Miami does with its park impact fees, and then distributed for certain projects, depending on whether they're shovel ready or whether they, are specific to a particular district or an area in the city? Or is the plan that, these fees are going to be sort of distributed by the county on a project specific basis, depending on what the county, planners decide? So that's really my question. Is there going to be sort of just a pot set aside and the projects will have to compete for those monies, or is it really going to be kept close to the vest by the county and then sort of administered as they see fit?
I mean, one thing is clear, there's going to be a pot set aside. There is going to be 3 pots, one for roads and one for transit and one for bike ped infrastructure. So there's going to be money on one side. And now for roads, our public works department, they prioritize the roads depending on different factors. And they come up with a ranking to prioritize the road projects. And I think so, for the bike ped projects, my understanding is still we have not, nothing is concrete, but the way we are leaning towards is we would like this committee, bike ped advisory committee, to be involved with how that money, the pot of money for bike ped infrastructure to be spent. I think you guys already have a methodology for what is that? You guys every year we have for the bike ped, what is that, Kevin? We have a particular amount of money for some bike ped projects. What is it? It also includes other projects. Similar to that, what do I forget that name? We do have something for I forget that name. Okay, we for bike ped and other small projects, we do have some pot of money that MPO has, and every year I'm also part of the committee where I rank the projects. Different cities come with projects and we rank them, and we distribute the money for that. Maybe
Vinod, before we talk about
Vinod,
Vinod, is the Transportation Alternatives Program. That's what you're thinking
yeah,
about.
yeah, exactly right. The alternatives program, maybe similar to that, or maybe we can give the responsibility to this committee to come up with the projects, and and the public works department can take over the projects and implement them. So something on that. That's how I think it could work. The process should work like that. Eli, did I answer your question?
Yeah, it sounds like the goal would be to have BPAC overseeing those projects and
yeah,
hopefully having some say so and sign off authority, and that's good. I just wanted to sort of sketch out how that process is going to work. I understand this is all evolving, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man. I appreciate it.
Right. Thank you, Eli. Mike Fleming.
Yeah, hi, Vinod, thank you very much. And glad to see that bike peds being included in the intermodal fee or the mobility fee. How are you calculating the bike usage in that calculation? What data are you using to calculate bike usage?
The bike usage, we get it from the SERPA model, the transportation model. It's called as SERPA, Southeast Florida Regional Transportation Model. That model gives us the split, let's say in downtown. It gives the split of what percentage of people the trips generated are auto-oriented, what percentage is transit, what percentage is bike ped, and what percentage is telecommuting and things like that. That model gives us the split in modes.
The thing that has to be understood from the experience of other cities around the world is that when you provide bicycle facilities, the bicycle users for commuting expands exponentially. I mean, it's huge. And right now, coming out of the COVID thing, you've got a whole lot of people in the bike industry that are recognizing that a lot more people have been buying bicycles and for the commuting purpose. The sale of e-bikes, especially for commuting, is going way up.
Okay.
So, I mean, any old figures that are being used for calculation are just that. They're old figures. And as soon as you provide, segregated or protected bike paths and bike lanes, the bicycle usage is going to skyrocket. It's going to be way more than what you're currently experiencing. Guaranteed.
We'll take a look at it again. We'll see how we could improve our data.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the data we had, and the TPO also did a household survey.
It's just something to be aware of. I don't know that you can have a 100% for sure way of calculating it. All I'm saying is don't build for last decade's usage, because the coming years, the usage, if you provide facilities for it, the usage will go way up. The other thing is, why are pedestrian paths more expensive on your calculation than bicycle paths? That doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. I think we got this data from the Public Works Department. They are the ones who are doing it now. And they gave us the cost for these infrastructures.
See, if I think what they're doing there is they're calculating the cost of simply painting a stripe for a bike lane. And calculating that in, and that doesn't do it. We really want bike paths and protected bike lanes, not just a stripe in the road. So if that's their calculation for making, I mean, a bicycle path should cost more than a pedestrian path, because you're adding signage, you're adding, all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
When it's done correctly.
Yeah. I mean, good that you have told me this. I'm going to ask our guys to take a second look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to get the right.
I guarantee you that 10 miles of good bike path costs more than 10 miles of, some sidewalk going down next to the street.
Okay. Let me see. Let me take a look at it and see why the difference is, and
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, any other questions?
That's it. Thank you.
All right. Because I'm trying to move it on a bit. Yannick, you're next.
Yes, good evening all. I have a question kind of related to Eli's question in terms of how the improvements and the fees will be assigned. Can you go back to the table that has the type of facilities, the bike facility, pedestrian? It said shared path. There. I think it's that one. And we might be at a very early stage, but how or who would identify the type of infrastructure that is going to be that should be developed for a specific area on a specific development? How are you gonna, who's gonna be identifying that so the cost can be calculated?
So we the cost, I understand what you're saying. It's not a customized cost. We are just going to get the impacts from that particular development. That's a good question. I do understand what you're trying to say. Let me get back to my consultant and see what they think about this. I think what you're saying is, how do we know what type of infrastructures we want for a particular development, right? That's what you're saying.
Correct.
Are we going to be happy with just a exclusive bike lane, or are we going to have a combination of sidewalk and bike path? So what type of infrastructure
Yeah.
we are going to collect money for?
Yeah, my point is
that's a good question. Actually, that's a very good question. I'm going to ask you.
okay. So that was my number one question. The other one is, what is exactly the difference between walk path and mixed use or bike path? Like number 1, 2, and 4.
Well, they have specifications for that. I can send you the exact, the drawings for all these things.
Okay.
Exactly how they differ from one another.
Okay. Okay. Thank
We
you.
have specification and drawings for each of these.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Anik. And then last round of questions from Francisco.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I've got 3 things, Vinod, thank you for.
Hey, Francisco, how are you?
Hey, how are you? So we've been working together, and the general feeling I got last time we spoke was that the fee is not really fully developed yet, so there's still things that are kind of being worked out. I think you mentioned that today.
That's right.
So just kind of first off the bat, when do you think it'll be done, and will you be coming back to the BPAC? That's my first question.
Yeah, first thing is we have to get this done in the next 2 months, and then we are planning to go to the board and get it adopted. So I'm thinking like another at least 4 months I can come back to the BPAC.
Before you go to the board?
No, after I go to the board.
After you go to the board?
First I need to get it adopted.
Okay.
I mean, if you guys want me to make a presentation again, the final how it is adopted before adoption, I think it's better that I come back after the adoption, so that I'll have a clear picture of what we are going to do. Okay.
All right. Okay. So my second item would be on the usage fee. So we did speak before that maybe it should be updated every 5 years, and that would kind of, as transit and bike ped infrastructure goes up, you would calculate the fee in those denser areas where there's more usage, and you start collecting a bigger fee for that.
That's right. That's our plan.
Okay. All right. And then my third note that I want to make is that, as you start, taking this to the commissioners, you really need to hit home that, this is going to be more expensive, right? So this is the road impact fee plus a transit fee plus a bike ped fee. So it's going to be higher than the road impact fee that we already have. So
not really, Francisco. That's not, I don't think, that's going to happen, because, the road fee might come down in the downtown area. The road fee might come down, and the transit fee will be increasing there. It'll be more there, and the bike ped fee will be there. From what we have done so far, some initial analysis, doesn't seem like there's much difference. There's going to be a little bit of difference, but not much.
Okay, all right. Because when we last spoke in regards to transit, we had some discussion about how high the fee was.
Yeah, we are thinking about, the transit, the transit was specifically very high. So we are still discussing about transit, how we can handle that,
Okay. All right. So then
whether
we'll-
we
we'll
should
keep-
just,
keep talking. We can meet, on that if you need to.
yeah, that's right. Transit is something that we are still working on.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Vinod. Okay, I actually have one more person who wants to ask a question, and then we'll
Okay.
wrap it up after that. Lisa, if you can allow Thomas Robinson to talk, and then he'll be the last question.
I'm just quick. I just sent an email to the presenter indicating if you want some information on what we could look like, what riderships could look like if we built out the infrastructure. Look at Amsterdam. Amsterdam has a full infrastructure, and my guess is that the ridership is very high, and we could have that if we had a safe set of infrastructure. That's all, but I've also sent this in an email, so I don't want to take up the
Very good.
commission time.
All right, no problem.
Thanks for
And
sending it.
Thomas, if you can just copy me in that email also, please. That'd be good.
Well, what's the copy?
Pardon?
I need to have an
It'll be
email.
my name, Kevin.Walford, as you see on the screen, WALFORD @miamidade.gov.
You want to send me an email? I'll send you a copy.
Yep, we'll do that.
I'm Robinson at Miami.edu. Robinson at Miami.edu.
Okay. All right, thank
Thanks.
you very
Thank
much.
you, Thomas.
All right, so thank you very much, Vinod.
No problem. Anytime.
All right, and we'll like I said, we'll probably see you a couple months down the road. All right, next presentation now we have is the Ludlam Trail Corridor. I'm going to go to Alyssa Turtletub from Pros to introduce her consultant. Either Alyssa or Mark, whoever's going to go first.
If Alyssa's not on, I can do it. This is
Okay, go
Mark.
ahead.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm pleased to introduce Victor Dover, who's on our consultant team along with AECOM. I believe we have Victor and Marty Pete from AECOM on the call tonight. And Victor's going to be presenting some great graphics and the progress to date on the Ludlam Trail. And then afterwards, we'll have question and answer period. Take it away, Victor.
All right, thank you, Mark, and thank you, Kevin. Also on the call, there are a couple of folks from Dover Coal, Barbara Lamb and Kenneth Garcia, and a couple of folks from AECOM, including Marty, Pete, whom Mark mentioned, and also Jen King. So I'll of course lean on any of them when questions come up later at the end of the presentation. I just thought I'd give you a quick update on where we stand with the Ludlam Trail project. First, double checking, you can see my screen share, Kevin?
Yes, we can.
All right, very good. I'll mention it again at the end, but I want you all to be aware there's an important public hearing, which will be held on August 24th from 6 to 8 at the Central Library Auditorium. This will be a hybrid event. It'll be both online and in person, as is presently conceived. But that'll be taking place as part of the PD&E study that I'm going to give you a summary on today. I know you all have been following the Ludlam Trail for a long time, so this will be a quick summary. This is a multi-phase project. The early phases involved envisioning the project and doing extensive community involvement in planning for the corridor as a whole, including the private development nodes that are in 3 locations along the trail, and the public park space that is the trail corridor project itself. The land has been acquired, the part of the corridor that has become county land, and now we're in the all-important PD&E stage. This gets us this and you'll see in this presentation, up to the approximately 15% design phase. Later, there will be a full design documents production and permitting phase that will get to the 100% construction documents. And then once that's all permitted, construction will begin. And we'll talk as we go here about the likely schedule. First, why we're doing this, you probably all know that the NEPA is a federal requirement. Our basic national charter for environmental protection is a part of any project like this. I know many of the projects that are reviewed at BPAC meetings are also going through PD&E as a way of fulfilling NEPA's requirements. So the way that works is there's a whole suite of various impacts, social and economic impacts, cultural impacts, natural and physical environmental impacts. These are all reviewed as part of the procedure prior to the implementation of the project, as a way of protecting our built and natural environment. So PD&Es are how in Florida we typically comply with NEPA. This particular project development environment study began in 2018, in July 2018. It's being carried out by our clients at the Parks, Recreation, and Open Spaces Department of the county and FDOT. And it should be, the remainder of this year will be required to complete it. Early in 2022, it will be complete. So as you are accustomed to seeing on projects like this, there are the typical preliminary cross-sections the engineers will produce for projects of this sort. And in the case of the Ludlam Trail, it's all, pretty exciting stuff. It has to do with where there is a separate two-way bike lane parallel to an independent pedestrian path for walkers and runners. The trail is about 100 feet wide consistently from in the section that we're dealing with between Southwest 80th Street and Northwest 7th. And there are most of the places along that corridor, the bike path and the ped path are separated. We're expecting, based on years of planning for this project, for once it's opened, for it to vault into the top tier of such trails nationally in terms of its popularity and use. And so we want to plan ahead for the minimizing of the conflicts between the two. There are also going to be times when the two will come together and adjacent. This is in preparation for crossing roadways or for going over bridges, things like that. I'll show you some more pictures to give you the idea. Here's a chart that summarizes the project schedule, and you can see we're about halfway down this list now as we approach the public hearing on August 24th. Then that will open up a public hearing comment period, which will close in September. Then the remainder of the year will be used to take what we have now as 15% drawings to the 30% complete stage. Then once the PD&E study is complete, the final design consultant is selected, they will do the construction documents, bring it to 100%, and contractors can begin building. So that sounds like a long and involved process, but the good news is this is the decade of the Ludlam Trail. And the plan is to be able to cut the ribbon on meaningful segments of the Ludlam Trail as soon as possible. Now, to summarize some of the things that were found in the impact studies that I summarized a little while ago. Under natural resources, endangered species and threatened species were analyzed, and the search was made to confirm there are no wetlands within the corridor, and there is no likely adverse impacts. There's a procedure under federal law, a special section of the Transportation Act that requires consideration of impacts on park and recreational lands. Of course, at the north end of the trail, and I'll show you this on a map momentarily, we have Robert King High Park, and about middle way down the trail from north to south, we have one of the county's signature heritage parks, 80 Barnes Park. The finding was that the Ludlam Trail enhances and has net benefit to these two resources. Similar analyses for cultural resources and historic properties found that the project's in compliance and that there are no significant impacts. So procedure's been completed, for example, analyzing the state historic roads, getting sign off by the state historics preservation officer. There's also been a review for contamination. You all have been probably following this along in the paper. The inventory of existing and readily available data sources has been done. The result here will be part of the decision-making process and presented at the public hearing. Now, we did conduct a really big Zoom public information meeting back in November of 2020. I know many of you participated in that. And so in preparation for that, a lot of information went out under the official channels. A new website was created. And all of the documents that were presented at that time are actually located on the County Parks Department's website for Ludlam Trail under the events tab. So if you want to see any of that again, you can go back there. And I'm going to present to you some of the latest updated versions of that material now. Quickly, the mission statement or the vision here is that the Ludlam Trail that we're studying is the 5.6 mile segment from 80th to Northwest 7th. Would be a corridor which includes biking, walking, and running. And it will connect across the heart of the county. And just some of the things that will be linked: schools, parks, transit, homes, workplaces, and places to shop and eat. I think many of you will recognize employment centers like downtown Kendall, tourism centers like close to the airport on the north end, and schools. We have thousands of classroom seats, either immediately adjacent or within easy biking distance. Now, most of those destinations are today primarily reached by driving, and they will, as a result of Ludlam Trail, be linked for non-motorized users. And of course, there are multiple transit lines that cross this as well. And that means the Ludlam Trail will be a crucial piece of first and last mile infrastructure connecting to the Smart Plan transit corridors. So you can see in the green arrow on the left side of your screen, the Ludlam Trail 5.6 mile segment that we're speaking about. There are additional pieces which need to be handled separately that will extend the Ludlam Trail over the CSX tracks in the north and connect to the future perimeter trail. And from Southwest 80th Street through the downtown Kendall area, connect to the Underline and the Dadeland metro stations on that end. This map shows the entirety of the Miami Loop from the Underline to the Miami River Greenway, future perimeter trail, and Ludlam Trail, and why we think the Ludlam Trail is such a crucial piece of interconnecting the network. Now, this map gives you an idea of where it's situated. A lot of it runs parallel to the Palmetto Expressway. And the three little white segments shown on this map are the so-called development nodes. These are properties which were not purchased by the county, but are being privately developed. They are, however, required to develop according to special zoning that was developed for them by the county's Department of Regulatory and Environmental Resources, and comprehensive plan amendments enabling that development. And one of the requirements is that the trail must be completed and continuous through those private developments and created on according to standards that are deemed satisfactory by the County Parks Department. Now on this map, the green segments are the portions that the county bought. And that's the area where we're concentrating the effort in this PD&E. And the little green rectangles along this map show you some of the parks and schools that are arrayed along that corridor. There are a number of crossings here. Here's a list of the crossings that are surface crossings at grade, and how each of them we intend to cover the jurisdiction, most of them under the control of the Department of Transportation and Public Works. And I'll show you a couple of visuals of such crossings. There are also 4 locations where it is anticipated that there will be bridges over significant east-west corridors. And here you can see the solutions for each of them. 3 of the 4 are associated with the development nodes and are the subject of independent agreements for each one. And Flagler Street is the one that connects to Robert King High Park. There are also 2 locations where you have to cross water bodies. The Coral Gables Canal adjacent to 80 Barnes Park in the Waterways neighborhood, and the C4 Canal up on the north end, which is essentially an extension of the Flagler Street crossing. So one reminder here, big letters, this is just 15%. So we like to remind people that what we're showing is likely to change and get better and better and more detailed as we move closer to that 100% mark. But meanwhile, we can already tell a general alignment. We have conceptual drawings like this one, where you can see how the bike path and pedestrian path are intended to be aligned, how they cross streets, and so on. More on this map momentarily. And then just to give you a visual on some of that, the idea is to essentially use all the space that is not the pavement areas for walking, biking, and running for green. And there's to be a significant planted buffer along the edges adjacent to all single family houses, for example. And you can get an idea here of the concept for plantings. We also take into account lighting, thinking ahead about how to implement dark sky procedures, but also have downcasting light that keeps the trail lit and makes for after hours safety. The trail will be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in our vision. Let's talk about the crossings. Here's a visual projecting a concept for crossing Flagler Street. This is a what if picture, but it's meant to evoke the idea that the Ludlam Trail will also be a kind of gateway to the neighborhoods, like it is here in the Flagami area. So this view is looking north, and we've recommended in a number of locations that if there isn't already an at-grade crossing near the above-grade crossing, there should be one created, for example, on Bird Road. And on Flagler Street, there's one just a short distance off screen. You can kind of visualize as the trail will come down off such a bridge and go to the north toward Robert King High Park, that it will come down partway, stay a little higher, and then eventually cross over the C4 Canal. So this is the illustration of that idea. And you're looking south now, where the crossing would go over the canal, and in the distance, ramping up and over, is the Flagler Street Bridge. So what we did is we took each of the engineering plans, there's a whole set of sheets that are posted on the project website, and we made color versions of those and then baked it into an interactive map. And so, there's a very rudimentary version here for that you can look at that shows each intersection. And then we took sample locations and visualized to make it easier for people to vividly imagine what such a place could be like, how the crossings could look. So here's an example crossing of one of the east-west neighborhood streets. The idea is to make safe, high visibility crossings. So and here we pulled back the trees so you can see what's going on down the ground plane. But the suggestion is to use the Seminole crossing conventions, if you know that detail, to introduce slight deflections in the alignment of the streets for traffic calming purposes. And then where this is one of those locations where the bikeway and the pedway are right adjacent to one another so that they can cross with safety. And I'll just put the trees back on that picture so you can get an idea that we think the crossings themselves could be very special moments along your travel along the trail, made very noticeable with the plantings. And this is a kind of welcome to each segment of the trail from the adjacent streets. So as you look at this map, you can actually go onto the website, use your phone or your tablet or your computer. You can pinch in with like you would on a Google map and swipe along and move along the map to see how each of the intersections are meant to work and how the trail in this preliminary stage is imagined to interact with the adjacent land uses and properties. So just to give you a couple of other ideas, the landscape vision is that the trail would not be just one long continuous segment of the same plantings, but rather it will be divided into segments that can be planted different ways. And that's to make sure there are large segments that have meaningful shade, because after all, it's hot here. So here you see an example of aligned hardwood trees, native trees like oak trees that would produce shade on the trail. And we've thought ahead about how those will incorporate root barriers so as to protect this trail from the fate of some of the other ones with which we're all familiar, where the root barriers were omitted and the trails are less functional for all users than we want them to be. And then just for contrast, here's another one, which is a different kind of segment, a Pineland segment. Again, there's a lot of enthusiasm for the landscape ideas, including Pineland restoration. We're just thinking that that will not be the only thing that we do here, but we'll do it in deliberately sized surgical segments that can be affordably and reasonably maintained. Now, here's a visual showing you what's happening as the bikeway and pedway are coming closer together and you approach one of those intersections. That is to make the intersections visible with planting notable for people who are on the trail upstream and downstream, and also for those crossing in cars. This is mostly a green corridor with surface infrastructure for walking and biking, and running. But there will be a little bit of architecture, just not that much. The thought is that there should be places along the trail where there can be shelters and bike repair stations. This is because of the realistic need that we have sudden storms. You'd like to have a place where you could pull up, wait for one of our short duration storms here in South Florida. When the sun comes out, you can get back on your bike and continue on your way. And these are also likely to be good locations for public art and or other activities that are integrated in and along the trail. So I urge you to go look at the county's website for this, miamidade.gov/Ludlam Trail, where you can see all the materials that I've been showing you and read all the information that's been posted so far. And with that, we'll go to questions, and I'm looking forward to answering any that come up. Kevin, would you like to MC that? And
Yep, I will. All right, so I'll take the baton from you, Victor. And the first question I see would be from Eric Tolberg, and I believe he had sent you some emails in your direction. I forwarded them to you, I believe. Oh, your end. Oh, hope I did.
right, we did receive a great many written questions and comments from Eric, and thank you for that, Eric. They've been added into all of the questions that we received during the public comment period. But one of the key ones that I remember there very vividly was, where are those 15% engineering plans? Can I look at them? And the answer is yes, you can. The last version of those, of course, it's all undergoing revision, but the last version of those is posted on the website. And there should be, I believe I'm correct in this, Alyssa Turteltaub will undoubtedly correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the newest version of those will also be posted prior to the public hearing.
Eric, do you want to?
Okay. Yes. Yes. If I can retrieve them off the website, that's fine. Otherwise, maybe Mark Heineke can help me get them on a Dropbox where I can download them. Another thing I wanted to point out is it's important that the Miami Loop connects with the Miami Intermodal Center, not just go up there and meet the Miami River Greenway, but it must go through the Intermodal Center, and this can be a great connection between the Intermodal Center, where people come in at the airport and can rent a bike and go all over the county. So that's a critical thing. I realize it may not come directly under this section of the project, but it's something that has to be kept in mind. The last thing I was going to talk about is there need to be rules set up. I've proposed some. I would encourage you, if you have any questions about the things that I've written, or you think they're total horse manure or they're great, whatever, please get back with me. I would like some feedback. I've been sending in a bunch of comments over the last 6 months.
Very
Thank
good.
you very much.
Well, thank you, Eric. And they are great comments, and they've been shared also with all the members of the engineering planning teams. There were quick questions there about the materials, about the standards for MUTCD applications, the rules about users and behavior. And it's a treasure trove there. Thank you for everything you sent.
All right, I have a Stuart Grant who is raising his hand, so I'm going to allow him to talk. Stuart?
Thank you, Kevin. I attended the big Zoom workshop in the fall, and I was surprised I don't know if Victor could go back to the schedule sheet, but I was surprised to see the ultimate completion in 2030. And I think there's a valuable resource that is not able to be used now due to very, very small percentages of arsenic in the soil. And I really think that the county is doing a disservice to the public who they've invested public funds in the purchase of this land, and then they fenced it off. Whereas formerly, neighbors, it was usable by neighbors. And now, my fear is that we'll have to wait another 9 years before we can actually use it again. Whereas my personal story is I've been walking from the Sunset area south to Dadeland, back and forth to go to the Metro, Dadeland North Metro Rail Station. And, now I have to walk on the road because it's all fenced. And whereas formerly I could at least, it's already in a sense a linear park, but it's been fenced off. And I think that's really a shame. And there needs to be some kind of plan to allow an interim use until the final completion. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Stuart.
Yeah, Stuart, this is Mark Heineke. I can speak a little bit about that. The requirement for fencing was ordered by RER, and that was to protect the public because arsenic is poisonous. But to your point, I believe we'll try to open the project as soon as we can. So as segments are completed, I believe they'll be open for use.
And from what I'm aware of, the arsenic is there because that's what's used to
Yes,
treat railroad track ties and such.
Correct. Years ago, they used to spray the weeds with arsenic as a weed killer.
Really common in Rails to Trails projects that this kind of contaminant is found during the early investigations nationally, because of back when they used to use arsenic as an herbicide.
Okay. So it's basically part of the process.
Right.
Okay.
We strongly recommend do not eat the dirt until after the contamination is repaired, and the fence is a precaution. Just
But after that, it's okay to eat the dirt.
no, don't ever eat the dirt, Mike. You had your hand up.
I did. Very, very glad to see so much shade is being planned. That's very, very important. But one thing I want to, and I'm sure Eric already brought this up, but motorized, making sure that there's no motorized usage on the trail. I'm thinking specifically of golf carts and dirt bikes. I mean, we see them on the old Cutler Trail now all over the place, and it's horrible. So somehow we got to make sure that idea that it's okay to run them on the bike paths is fixed.
Right.
So the working assumption is no motorized vehicles. Mark?
Right.
Well, actually, there will be some motorized vehicles. We have to allow motorized wheelchairs, electric bikes,
right, good exception.
Scooters and things like that will be allowed.
Bikes, if they're actual e-bikes and motorized wheelchairs, that's fine.
Correct.
Yeah.
But no golf. I agree with you. No golf carts, no motorcycles, things like that.
You see them on Old Cutler Road now all the time. It's horrible.
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the solutions we are going to be doing is posting the no motor vehicles sign, which is standard for trails.
Which they tore down in Palmetto Bay. But anyway, peace to that, whatever. Just something to be aware of.
Right.
All right. Thank you very much, Victor. And thank you very much, Pros, for this very good presentation.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all. Please do attend on the 24th of August.
And look at the website for latest updates. And attend the public hearing, August 24th, main library.
Thank you very much. And this will be recorded on our web channel, so anybody can always go back and listen to it for the more details. All right, the next presentation we're going to have is from DTPW, their Dadeland South Intermodal Station Project. I'm going to go to Alexander Gorgas from DTPW to introduce their consultant.
Hi,
Alexander?
this is Genevieve.
Oh, okay.
If Alex, I'm here with Anna. That's why.
Okay, because
my name on the screen.
I didn't see your name, so that's why I went straight to him. But
No
you're-
problem. But I am here.
All right, go ahead.
We can't share screen, right? We have to go with the one that's on your screen. Click share.
Well, we have the document. You can, if you want to share, you just request to share screen, and then Lisa will allow you to share your screen.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yep. All right. Great. You can see the screen. Awesome. Good evening and thank you for the opportunity to bring before you the DTPW Dadeland South Intermodal Project. As mentioned, my name is Genevieve Cavey-Hunt and I am Ecom Technical Services. We've been contracted by DTPW Transit to develop the design criteria package as well as associated indicative concept plans. On the screen here, we just quickly put together a quick agenda of what we're going to be going through. And what I'd like to do is, I don't know if Alex is, oh, Alex is apparently having a hard time speaking. But as we go through our presentation, we intend to share general project information, which will include some schedule milestones and key project components. We'll be discussing some of the bicycle amenities and the connectivity anticipated for the project. I'm sorry, I think Alex is having a hard time coming off of mute. So I know he is on the call. Alex Gorgas is with the Department of Transportation and Public Works. He is the project manager for this particular project. And for AECOM, we are slated as the owner's rep. And with me today, I have Anna Race, who assisted with the development of the design criteria package, and Mr. Luis Tejada, who oversaw the development of the indicative concept plans. So the county has selected the project to proceed as a design build procurement. The design criteria package, commonly referred to as a DCP, is composed of a narrative document defining the design and construction criteria, along with attachments, which are typically binding, and reference documents, which are used as non-binding supplementary information. The attachments can be specific details or sections or requirements that must be adhered to, but which are not necessarily easily conveyed in words. Reference documents can typically consist of any past planning information. As I mentioned, they will consist of the indicative concept plans, anything that will assist the design build proposing teams to visualize the project and understand some of the history of the project. The project is 100% funded through the PTP program, and the NTP is targeted around spring of 2020, and it is anticipated to take approximately 2 years to complete. So some of the major project components, which we'll see in a few renderings shortly, include an improvement to the BRT platform on the east side, where the traditional 6-inch platform will be replaced with one that offers level or near level boarding. So it will be a higher, it will be a raised platform. Local buses will continue to operate on the west side, and therefore that side, which is underneath the tunnel, will also be improved upon. All the bus bays will now be designed to accommodate 60-foot articulated buses. And the Metrorail platform will also be improved, as well as the kiss and ride area, or also known as the drop-off pickup area, on the north entrance, which is closer to the park and ride lot. Various canopy improvements are programmed. The canopy on the east side will be replaced, as mentioned. The Metrorail canopy will be extended. The canopy over the escalators and stairs on the north entrance will be replaced. And a new canopy is being proposed between the Metrorail station and Daytron Center. So for those that might be familiar with the area, there is an open space between the Daytron building and the Metrorail platform area that is open. And we've heard that there have been opportunity for patrons to get wet as they're trying to cross. So one of the thoughts for the county was to add a canopy in that area. Okay. Additional station improvements include incorporating more CCTVs along the platform and the Metrorail level. Next bus arrival signs, which are your typical LCD monitors. They will be located at each of the bus bays. A new barrier type system will be introduced, and that's going to be used to control the paid area from where patrons are transferring from the BRT buses on the east side into the concourse area. The station improvements will also consider areas for advertising panels, provide appropriate wayfinding signs, and provisions for informational kiosks. Vertical circulation upgrades are also anticipated, and they will include 2 new elevators in the concourse area. One is replacing the existing, and a second one is planned to go right adjacent to that. Various lighting improvements to enhance the experience and the safety level. The flooring system in the concourse level and the Metrorail level will be redone. Various opportunities to introduce climate control systems and features are included in the DCP, and landscape hardscape elements such as benches, integrated wood planters are also being considered. So in this rendering, you see the intent of this rendering is actually to express the openness that is expected. With the removal of the yellow bollards and the fare gates on the east side, opportunity for greater open spaces for the patrons to quickly move between their bus drop-off area into the concourse area is the goal that is being reached for, as opposed to the way that the patrons are currently funneling through a pinch point, which are the fare gates. In an upcoming rendering, I also will show the half height barrier system. It is eliminated in this just for the purposes of clarity on the drawing. The canopy system shown here is, as mentioned, will replace the existing canopy, and it will be designed to be supported by way of the Metrorail guideway structural columns, thereby eliminating need for any support on the platform level. It's not shown in this rendering, but through a recent addition, through some rescoping of this project, we will be adding a 10-foot bike path that will run along this fence line. We'll show in a renderings and some slides down further into the presentation, the way that the path will work adjacent to the bus circulation movement area. Also shown is a supervisor as a supervisory booth. That is new. And that would just further add some, a feel for a safer environment and opportunity for patrons to ask questions. It primarily would be for the supervisor that will be manning the bus operations. But as with all stations, employees are there to assist with any questions the customers may have. So on this rendering, you see the half-height barrier system. It is approximately 5 feet in height and will have doors that will open in coordination with the BRT buses. This will offer riders on the BRT system a seamless transfer from the buses to the escalators or elevators in order to catch the Metro Rail station on the second level. So in this slide, we're more so focusing on the north entrance side of the facility. So you will see the Metro Rail platform canopy that is being extended from the existing, and as previously mentioned, it will continue. It will continue over a new supervisory booth on that floor, on that second level. A new elevator is being proposed in the area that's towards the end of the north entrance, and it's only going to be accessible from the north entrance. But this offers opportunity for patrons who need to use the elevator, quick access from the kiss and ride, as opposed to crossing Dadeland Boulevard and using the elevators on the concourse level. This is the third elevator proposed for the project. The escalators are also proposed to be replaced, as well as the canopy, a new canopy that will cover both the escalator and the stairs that run adjacent to the escalators. To the escalators. So here are just a couple of visual renderings to demonstrate the canopy extension, the Metro Rail canopy extension. In the top left, you should, outside of the red box, towards the left side of the drawing is the existing canopy. So then there is the new canopy that's within the red dotted lines. And then you also see the new canopy that would be going over the escalators. So the idea is that the canopy concept here is a very similar architectural concept and feature of the canopy that's on the east side at the ground level. This slide just shows a different perspective of the escalator canopy and the continuous canopy coverage that we anticipate to achieve between the new drop-off area and the north entrance. This slide is just another one that just demonstrates the flooring system that is to be redone. One thing to note is that the fare gates on the west side will remain, but those that are on the east are the ones that are being removed due to the BRT service. The fare gates and ticket vending machines that will service that area, which is the east side, will be placed on the ends of the platform. Therefore, if the station concourse area is closed, patrons are still able to access the BRT platform for late night bus service. This is another perspective view from the second level looking down. Again, I previously mentioned, if you all are familiar with this site, there are yellow bollards that act as a security system or a barrier system. Those bollards will be removed and they will be replaced by a decorative style aluminum fence. And at the same time, a similar fencing system, accordion style, will be used whenever the station has to close down, as opposed to the traditional roll down gates. This is a view from the Metro Rail platform, showing again the canopy being extended. The next one. In addition to some of the station site improvements that were just shared, the project is programmed to have site and roadway improvements as well. So there will be milling and resurfacing of Datron Drive, which is on the south side of the station, as well as Dadeland Boulevard, which is on the north side of the station. The project will introduce a bus staging area on Dadeland Boulevard. This staging area will formalize activities that are currently occurring on that road. The pickup and drop-off area at the north entrance is being transformed to a more functional kiss and ride. The existing park and ride lot will be resurfaced and restriped due to some of the improvements that are anticipated from the underline. Initially, there was going to be some loss of parking, but with the coordination that we've been able to do with the underline and with some of the restriping of the lot, you know, many of the spaces are actually coming back. So that was a great plus. Further, the connectivity between the underline and the South Dade Trail has been examined and multiple connections have been investigated. We've looked at different opportunities, different ways. We've run into a couple of concerns, safety concerns, which then had us to work one solution that we're going to share with you now. So once the underline is constructed, bicyclists will be required to dismount and walk through the north entrance until they're able to safely cross Dadeland Boulevard. This is currently the same method of bicycle connectivity that is happening now. So recall before I mentioned the 10-foot bike path. So on the right side of the drawing where the underline ends, if you notice the red arrows, we pretty much depict the movement of bike traffic. So once the bicyclists cross Dadeland Boulevard and enter into that side of the Dadeland station, they will then be able to move eastward towards the bike path. And at that point, we expect that they should be able to, would remount their bicycles and continue along that path. Again, the bike path is a 10-foot bike path. It's along the east side of the station, and it's approximately 350 feet long. So here is the continuation of that bike path that's on the east side. So as the patrons, as the riders are coming along this area, we investigated ways on trying to not have them dismount, but due to the way that the lanes are situated, the crosswalks are situated, unfortunately, they're going to have to dismount at this point. Again, cross over Datron Boulevard, and then they will be able to connect to South Dade Trail. So we thought it was important to at least share with the committee some of the other options that were investigated. I'm sure as when you're looking at this, you might already have a couple of thoughts as to what about this, what about that. So at least we wanted to share with you two major options that were, as I mentioned, that were investigated. So one of the options was an elevated connection, which would tie in where the underline would be expected to end. So as the bicyclists would head southbound, the path would begin to rise so that it can get over Dadeland Boulevard with a 17-foot vertical clearance. It would then remain elevated as shown here. Your cursor doesn't work, does it? I'm sorry. Okay. It would remain elevated as shown here until it reaches Datron Drive, at which point the elevation would start to descend. So one of the things, and everything seemed to work well, but as one of the concerns that we ran into is there is at the end of, well, I shouldn't say at the end, right at the Palmetto overpass, there is a column, there is a pier column that is there, and that column happens to bifurcate the bike path or the trail. And because it bifurcates, it actually splits it into, I think, 5 foot on either side. But it happens, the column happens to be in the middle of the path. So imagine as bicyclists are coming down, of course, as you're coming down, you know, you're picking up speed. And even though we did everything in accordance with the FDOT guidelines to maintain the appropriate slope, there was a concern that this pier would just be in the way of a bicyclist coming down. And it raised, like I said, concerns about safety. So because of that, and also with all the elements that are being added to Dadeland South, it kind of tipped the scales over the allotted budget. So that was, that option was no longer considered a viable option. The other connection that we investigated was to maintain a direct connection from the underline to the new 10-foot bike path on the east side of the station. So this option also introduced safety concerns due to oncoming traffic being unable to view approaching bicyclists. There is an existing building on the corner of this area where, with the position of the building and the location is shown in green of the proposed bike path, the line of sight for the motorists to see bicyclists is obstructed. So with the rise of incidents, we've spoken to a couple of individuals, you know, with the rise of incidents between motorists and bicyclists, coupled again with the unlikeliness of a bicyclist actually stopping to press a button to cross, to wait for the signal to cross Dadeland. There was concerns that were raised for this option as well. So again, due to that, this option was no longer considered to be an option to continue with. I think at this point, we've covered everything. I don't know, Alex, if you're able to speak, if you want to share anything. Like I said, Alex had a couple of challenges. Are you on, Alex?
Yeah, hi, do you hear me now? Do you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Hello? You hear me? Okay, no, great. No,
Yes, we
thank
hear
you.
you.
Thank you, Genevieve. Thank you, Genevieve. No, I apologize to everyone. Again, I had some audio difficulties here with my computer, but I was able to call in. No, Genevieve, I think you did a great job. I think you pinpointed everything on Dadeland South intermodal project. And I think now we're pretty much open for any type of questions to see if we could respond.
All right, let's see who I have. I have a raised hand here. I want to see who that is. Somebody there, hand raises. Oh, there it is. Carlos.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I got a comment question. When it comes to the canopies over the escalators and the elevators, please look into providing a more enhanced protection for those devices. Similar designs were put in at the MIC, and now FDOT and SFRTA are retrofitting those because, as you know, mechanical equipment is very sensitive to water, but not only water, the weather, and those types of devices very easily can get ruined. So you're going to most likely have to provide quite an expanded roof and even some side protection to not allow, you know, rain when the wind blows to fall on those devices because they get ruined. And also make sure you look at the drainage down below as well, because water does get down there, and make sure that water, I know you're maybe not there at that stage, but the canopies for sure, and maybe even some side protection be shown now and taken into account in the costs. And it actually impacts your costs more than you think because of the additional loads that it creates on the structures that you got to put there. And so at least take that into account now. And I know later on in design, you could figure out the details, but make sure that you do have the proper rain protection and drainage systems when you're dealing with elevators and escalators. So that's it.
Okay.
Thank you, Carlos.
Any other, okay, Hank, you're next.
Yeah, it's just about what happens at the end of the underline. I've been on lots of bike paths where I'm told to dismount, and I don't dismount. And I think most people will not dismount. So I think the expectation that people are going to dismount and mount and remount, then dismount again and remount is not congruent with reality. And I think that needs to be thought through better. I think at a very minimum, there should be a button with a flashing light at the crosswalk there on, I think it's Daytram Drive. I've been there. I don't go there an awful lot. That's just a dreadful, horrible place to be on a bike. And you're setting people up for not to be sufficiently safe. I think that the long-term vision ought to be the overpass, no matter what it costs. It can't be that expensive that it's impossible to do. It just can't be. So that's my comment.
All right, thank you, Hank. Eric?
Yes, can you hear me? Okay, I have much of the same comments as my fellow BPAC member, Mr. Sanchez Resnick. I do want to point out that you do need more bike parking in the fare paid area of the Metro Rail station. There's about space for 10 bikes, and that's full most of the time. You need to put in a lot more parking. You need to put in push buttons on the right side of the path. Now, that's a big problem of where you've got the push buttons now, and I don't see why you can't have a push button, if necessary, gate at the end of the path, more or less where you have a straight path, have a gate. You push the button when the light is flashing, then the gate can open. And I think that would solve the problem of cyclists just blowing through the crossing. I really have a problem with having to dismount, mount, then dismount and mount on the other side. The connection on the north side is really bad now, and I would hope that it would be better when the underline comes in. I think you really need to think about how to do the crossings. If you can't have an overhead connection, at least have a crossing with a push button on the right and possibly a gate to keep a cyclist from pulling out into the road. But there's no reason that you can't cross the south crossing because there's plenty of vision, and having a 90-degree angle, two 90-degree angles at the south crosswalk is not acceptable either. Okay.
All right, thank you very much, Eric. Do we have any other questions for the presenters? All right, then thank you very much, Genevieve.
I think Mike wanted to talk.
Pardon?
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing. You're 100% right about the crossings. I ride through there all the time. There's no way people are going to dismount and remount. That doesn't happen. Cyclists don't do that. And right angles, forget about it. The other thing is, right now, there's a problem up on the platform, since you showed pictures of it and everything, you know, up on the train level. And that is, there's no arrow or indication as to which train, if there's two trains up there, which one is the next one going to take off. And I can tell you that as recently as last week, most of us were on the wrong train. And we're all sitting there, and all of a sudden the train on the other side left with nobody on it. So, I mean, it happens. And we have all these wonderful pictures of that particular station. It's the only station where that happens, except for, of course, all the way at the north end, it would be the same thing. So you've got two trains sitting there. You don't know which one's going to take off next. And we're constantly having to ask, staff up there on the platform, which train's going next? So that's a simple thing. It just comes up because your drawings were of that part of the facility. I'm very glad to see you're at least thinking about connecting the underline to the South Dade Trail. That's great. But like Hank and Eric both said, the overpass, if you want people to really use it, the overpass is the way to go. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Great. No, and this is Alex Gorgas. No, I just want to let everybody know that all your comments, we're taking in all your comments. As Genevieve mentioned before, we're putting together the design criteria package. So a lot of your input, we're going to take into account and possibly put it into the design criteria package. As you know, the design build firm that gets selected will be able to do some additional innovation, look at this a lot more clear, provide some of these recommendations you guys are asking for. They'll see if they could actually implement that into their design. And remember this, once we have our design build firm, they will come back to the BPAC and present again. So this isn't going to be the first time you guys are going to see. You guys are going to see this again. So I appreciate you guys providing all your input. And again, we'll definitely account for them, and we'll put some of this information into the design criteria package. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. All right, so I think that covers this one. So thank you very much for that presentation. We're going to move to the next one, which would be the June update from DTPW. Yannick, you're up.
Good evening, all. My name is Yannick Fernandez, and I'm representing the Department of Transportation and Public Works. Just giving you an update with respect to new presentations for Public Works projects. The first one is an intersection improvement project at Douglas Road and Ingram Highway. This, as you all know, or every cyclist knows, this intersection has been requested or in the works for many years. And finally, funding was allocated to improve the intersection. Specifically, the scope of work is going to be upgrading the span wire to mast arms. The signals are going to be mast arms. A crosswalk along crossing Douglas Road is going to be added to Park Avenue. There you go. A path is going to be constructed along the east side of Douglas Road, along with curb and gutter. This path, sidewalk, or wide sidewalk, because you don't have, we really are kind of restricted here because of the entire intersection is very restricted because of right-of-way. So we're trying to implement as much as possible. First of all, prioritizing separation of the non-motorized users from the vehicle lanes through curb and gutter, through actual separation with a swale area, and then or grassed area, and then providing as wide as possible a path or a facility along this segment all the way to right there where you see it says end sign and pavement markings. This is an intersection improvement project. It's not a corridor project. eventually, as you know, the Commodore Trail is working on a master plan that is going to evaluate the entire trail. But for now, the funds were identified to improve this area, definitely with the help of the Commodore Trail and all the efforts from Hank Resnick. And this is something that is going to construction right now. This project is going to construction. You're gonna also have, in addition to roadway items, you're gonna have sign and pavement marking. You definitely are going to need to do some tree removal and relocation along this section in order to implement the curb and gutter and to implement the path on that east side. Basically, the cost is 1.1 million. Even though it's a small project in size, it is not so small in cost. And we're expecting construction to begin in fall 2021. The duration of the project is supposed to be 6 months for the actual completion of the project. I think I have very generally mentioned everything about it. I'm opening the floor for questions if you have any at this moment.
Hello, do you want us to ask questions now or at the end?
Now is good because I think I want to finish with this project in order to go to the other.
Okay, I'll lead off. Of course, as you said, this is one of the worst areas, particularly Ingram Highway. In fact, there should be signs suggesting that cyclists and pedestrians don't use Ingram Highway. One of the things that I couldn't understand, is Park Avenue going to be cut through, or is that going to remain a dead-end street?
It's going to remain the way it is. It just has a connection, which actually it has a connection to a piece of sidewalk, a very small piece of sidewalk that you have on that side. But it's going to be closed.
Okay, so, all right, so it's going to remain a dead-end street. I would suggest you look at doing something like was done on Old Cutler Path, where you have a raised curb and then notches for drainage. That seems to work better. Then that way you don't have to raise the path as well.
Yes, definitely. The designer they have been looking at the drainage and they have identified whether or not either an inlet or a flume is needed for this area, and they don't have anything specifically for this project. They don't have anything identified. However, I will bring it up to them to double check for any funding issues on this area.
And one other thing you should know is that the flare areas are only needed when the sidewalk or path is higher than the road. If they're at the same level, you don't need the same treatment on the sides. You still need a flare because the people coming out of the driveway have to make a turn.
Sure.
Okay, you've got the rest of my comments in my email. Thank you.
I have a comment.
Sure.
Kevin?
Go
Kevin?
ahead, Hank.
Of course, I'm familiar with this, and our group, Friends of the Commodore Trail, has been talking with DTPW about this for several weeks, and we're actually doing outreach to the neighbors, and we've had generally very positive reaction from neighbors. The general feeling is that this is one of the most dangerous places where people in South Coconut Grove walk and bike and run, and doing something about this to fix it is really, really important. So I want to thank Yannick and everybody else in DTPW who has advanced this project and put it on a fast track. It's extremely important. So whatever comes out of the master plan for the Commodore Trail, which you're all going to be hearing about, I think, pretty soon. My understanding is that a contract is about to be signed for the master plan. So whatever happens with the master plan, whether this is completely consistent with it or not, this is going to be much better than what we have there now.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, Hank.
Frangio.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I think you need to move again. The next project is Frangio Road, which is 97th Avenue from Old Cutler to 184th Street. It's in very preliminary design now. I'm just placing here the typical sections so you have an idea of what's being proposed. Basically, this is going to be a 2-lane road, 1 lane in each direction, and it's going to have on-road bike lanes and separated sidewalks. The construction schedule is from April next year to May of, it's going to be 2 years, May of 2024. The estimated cost is $8.9 million. This is a full reconstruction of the road. So it includes drainage, lighting, sidewalk, everything, signalization, includes everything. This is all the information I have for this project at this moment. So I'll take any comments on your side.
Hi, Yannick, it's Mark Heineke. Is there any possibility of making a buffered bike lane or protected bike lane in this project?
I already sent that comment as part of the VRT review to the project manager and the consultant, and I'll let you know as soon as I hear from them what the response is going to be.
Hello, Eric Tolberg. I would like to point out that Palmetto Bay has already constructed bike lanes on the northern side up to US 1. So this will be a great project that will connect two of the most important routes, the M path on the other side of US 1 and Old Cutler Path.
Correct. And the section that is already built has on-road bike lanes, just like this one. It doesn't have separated bike lanes. So that's something else that is going to be evaluated as part of the response, I'm pretty sure. Any other questions? Okay, those are the 2 new presentations that I have this month. And as usual, I have the all the projects that we're currently working on. If you have any specific comments or questions, just feel free to send them to me or Kevin. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric. All right, so now we're going to go to, go ahead, Eric.
Yes, I think on the project list, the first project I think is important for us to look at because that's the places I assume are going to be bike lanes in downtown Miami. But I was confused when I looked at the project in the roadway construction report. It seems that the one thing that's needed is westbound bike lanes to complement the east ones on southwest, southeast 1st Street. The other things I think was brought up to the BPAC one time before, but I didn't see bike lanes specifically mentioned in the roadway construction report.
I'm sorry, Eric, could you clarify the roadway, on the report that it didn't say the downtown mobility network had bike lanes? That's what you mean?
The roadway construction report that comes out every week.
Yes.
This project showed up on it, but it didn't say bike lanes on it. So I want to be sure that there's no miscommunication here, and there's going to be bike lanes. And when this project is finished, it's critical that there be another bike lane to match the Southwest First Street. Southwest First Street goes in one direction. There need to be westbound bike lanes to complement the eastbound bike lanes on Southwest First Street. Otherwise, there's no way to get across the southern part of the Miami-Dade or Miami.
The bike lanes here are being provided on 5th Street and 6th Street. One is eastbound, the other one is westbound.
Right. There is an existing bike lane on Southwest First Street, but there is no bike lane going the other direction.
Okay, yeah, that's okay. That's not part of this project. This project covers 5th and 6th and Miami Avenue and 1st. But definitely, yes, I know what you mean with respect to additional needs within this area.
Yes, okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
All right. Thank you, Janet. So now we're going to go to Tiffany with FDOT's District 6 report for the month of June. Tiffany, you're ahead. You're up, sorry.
Perfect. Can everyone hear me and see me?
Yeah.
Awesome. So like always, first I'm going to just go over briefly. These are the ERC reviews. We call it ERC. It's electronic review comment system that FDOT uses to review any of the projects that are funded or somehow managed by FDOT. Not all of them are on state roadways. Some of these are LAP projects, and they'll actually say that in what type of project type. And those LAP projects are typically managed, well, they always are managed by one of our partnering agencies. So I'll just go over this quickly. The first three are all, these are all in the planning phase. These are actually in my office. So these are very early on in their conceptuals. We have vetted them quite a bit as far as looking at the right of way and drainage and other things like that. But these are still in the fairly early phases. But I think they're projects that we can really get excited about. And so I'll go into detail on those in the following slides. But some of these other ones don't really impact these next, the 4 and 5 don't really impact bike infrastructure much. I know I've mentioned the Tamiami project quite a bit, and that's further out west, and that's really for wetland restoration. You can go to the next slide, please. And then we've got, and I try to summarize here what the project is doing. And like I said, like I've said in the past, resurfacing projects, these are typically trying to maintain a certain pavement condition. So it doesn't necessarily, if they can fit in bike facilities within the curb to curb footprint, they will do that. They'll a lot of times do that. But if the lane widths are already at their minimum and any bike facility would require either a lane repurposing or moving curb and gutter further out, that would not typically be done through a resurfacing project. So this project on Northeast 125th Street from west northwest 1st Avenue to northeast 5th Avenue, it's going to be incorporating sharrows, which I know we're not necessarily big fans of. And then also high emphasis crosswalks, updated curb ramps, sidewalk repair, are typical improvements that you'll see in a resurfacing project, or triple R, what we call it. And then we have the Village of Virginia Gardens Community Bicycle and Pedestrian Improvement Project. And this is to to add 5-foot sidewalks on 37th Street, add 10-foot shared use path on 38th Street, curb ramp, sliding crosswalk, sidewalk repair, and yeah, you can see, and I'll actually show this. I think this one I do show in another slide, but this was a LAP project. So this is done by, in this case, the Village of Virginia Gardens, and we oversee it because we provide, well, we oversee the funding that's federal funding. And then the underlying segment A from Southwest 13th Street to Southwest 19th Street. This, we reviewed the 100% plans. And on this is a county project. This is DTPW. But I know I've presented this quite a few times in the past. And so pretty familiar, but now it's just kind of fine tuning and tweaking. And then also the MacArthur Causeway. This one was kind of on hold for quite some time as they decided what type of transit project would come on the MacArthur project or MacArthur Causeway. But the bicycle lane enhancements are going to be pushed forward. And that's really taking, trying to connect as much of that bike facility as possible and provide some buffer where we can, and also the green conflict areas. And then that last one's a bridge repair project, doesn't really impact bike facilities. Go to the next slide, please. And then we have another bridge repair project on 11 that doesn't impact any bike and pedestrian facilities. 12 is the, it's a LAP project as well. It's one of our local agency partner projects. And this is the Northwest South River Drive. I know I brought this to the group before and there were comments made. And now it's kind of coming back through because it's 100%. And we have the State Road A1A Collins Avenue from Harbor Way West to Balcross Drive. This one's actually, it's not on Collins Avenue directly. I mean, it is, but it's the frontage road that comes kind of around. And in that area, they're going to be tabletopping that where they can lower the speeds to 20 to provide that tabletop crosswalk so that it would improve safety, and it's going to have rapid rectangular flashing beacons and share markings along those, and also some lighting improvements within the safety project. And then we have the landscape projects. Hopefully we'll start to see those Chrome Avenue landscape projects being constructed soon. And let's see, this last one is another resurfacing. And again, with these resurfacing projects, traditionally, they'll be adding, like I said before, a high emphasis crosswalks. They do, if they can, provide some sidewalk repair. In this case, this one's adding some sidewalk on the north side to connect to the bus stop, lighting, 5-foot shoulders, and 6-foot 6-foot sidewalk on both sides. Okay, and we can go to the next slide. Okay, so this is the Village of Virginia Gardens. This is the Community Bicycle and Pedestrian Improvement Project. You can see some of the enhancements being made right here, really taking that existing shared use path and connecting it and bringing it around Northwest 38th Street. And then you've got, so you can see some of the typical sections here. You've got the 10-foot shared use path, 11.5-foot lanes. And let me see, I've got my screen here. And on Northwest 67th Avenue, you have the 8-foot asphalt shared use path. That's actually the existing asphalt shared use path. They are changing in this direction to a one-way instead of two. All right, and we can go to the next slide. And then the MacArthur Causeway, I wanted to show the areas that I wanted to display a little bit of everything that was happening here to understand that there is some pinch points that we're working with that's going to range where we can provide the buffer. We're going to be providing the buffer. It might, when it does narrow, you can see what it narrows to. It can narrow in the pinch that it's going to hit is 4 feet, but where we can widen out, we're going to widen out to 5 and preferably to much to that wider width of buffer space. And then I know Eric provided a comment about the east side bridge and what's happening on the east side as you're going west to east. Yes, as you're going west to east, you'll be connecting to the sidewalk there that has that separation. It's not necessarily ideal, we understand, but it is a protected facility. Well, it's a protected sidewalk. So the thought is to try to keep people, our safety is our #1 priority. So if we can at least have some separation and utilize that separation space when we don't necessarily have the option to widen the bridge in the short term. That's what we're looking to try to do. All right, and the next slide, please. Okay, and this is the Northwest South River Drive Drainage Mobility Improvements Project. And this is, I believe this is the Medley project. And this is where they're doing the sidewalk and they're doing the on-street bike facilities. I know we've made comments in the past, and I made the comments prior about instead of necessarily doing the on-road, perhaps do a shared use path type of situation. But I believe that although we have provided those comments, for one reason or another, they're moving forward with the on-street bike facilities with the green conflict. All right, the next slide. And so this is just an update on the bike ped, the bike network connectivity assessment and our bike network plan. I want it sometime up soon. I would love to give an update, but I understand that the next BPAC is going to be pretty booked up again. So perhaps, Kevin, the next BPAC that we can put an agenda item just to go over the bike network plan and do an update on that.
So that would be the September meeting. So
yep. Otherwise, because I would love to give everyone an update tonight, but I feel like everyone's probably fallen asleep. So I want to give everyone a chance to actually really be engaged in the conversation. So yes, the next opportunity I'll make sure that we give a presentation on it. But we can go to the next slide though, and you can see this is kind of an image of the update of some of the updates to, you can see, I love to see, for instance, Frangio Road. I love to see when the blue lines that we have in the proposed can become the dashed lines, meaning that we're working toward the bike network plan and we haven't even finalized it. So I love to see that that those connections are, even though, like I said, even in a draft stage like this, they're already coming to fruition. And so very happy to see. And I believe everyone here has the link. You can always see this and see what we're proposing. But what we're working on right now, though, just to give everyone a brief update, so we are working on the partner packets. Unfortunately, my priorities had to shift to other things, so I wasn't able to put the time forward, but my consultants are working on those partner packets to make them easy for our partners to use and to understand, to see exactly what pieces of the puzzle they're working on. And we're also working on prioritization. How do we prioritize? What quarters do we prioritize? And we can go to and there's one other thing though I wanted to mention. And actually I kind of wanted to hit this with the mobility fee, but I think we really, in order to, I'm just gonna spit this out there for everyone. I think if we're gonna be good stewards of the public dollar, we need to try to combine our roadway projects and our bike improvement projects into the same type of project if possible. If we can get one construction crew out, one impact to our communities and get all the needed improvements in that one project, that should be our way forward. And if that needs to be a little bucket from roadway, a little bit from bike, and a little bit from whatever, we might want to go forward with that just to be efficient in our spending. Make sure we're doing one project instead of multiple different projects on a roadway. But that's just a side note. We can go to the next slide. Okay, and this is where the projects, sorry, go back to the previous one. I know these are huge and very hard to see, but I know that everyone got probably a much larger file maybe. I have to tell you that the roundabout project is happening. So anything so if you look all the way to your far left there, you see the roundabout. Sorry. So that roundabout's happening, and what we're wanting to do is tie in an actual bike facility on Coral Way where there is none currently. So if you look to the east of that roundabout, what happens around the roundabout, it goes onto a shared use path, and then you'll kind of connect around, and the shared use path on Coral Way will then be directed, I guess, onto the bike lanes. So I don't know if any, I mean, I know Coral Way quite well, so actually keep going. Whoever's managing the screen, I'm not sure. Other way, other way. Yep, keep going. And so when we put the green here, that's not to show that we're doing fully green facilities. I don't want to throw anyone off. This is a planning phase. What we're doing is we're highlighting what the bike lanes are going, where they're going to be, and showing, really highlighting them. I know that the fully green makes us very excited, but we would be doing here the green conflict areas. And also another thing that we've already kind of vetted out, but I haven't been able to, well, we haven't fully vetted it out, but one thing that's still a conversation item is the bike boxes. This type of configuration might not be the best use of a bike box. It might be better for more of a two-stage turn box, so that you're not putting a bike behind a vehicle that might want to be going straight and you're wanting to turn left. So that's something we're still kind of vetting out, and we're doing some operational analysis to see how many turning vehicles are there, and to see how many bikes are turning and make sure we're putting the right treatments in. But the hope though is that we have some sort of seamless transition turning right, so that the person on the bike lanes on Coral Way can then get onto the bike lanes on 2nd or onto the bike lanes on Miami Avenue. What we're doing here is we're doing some minor widening, and we're also proposing to eliminate just a handful. I mean, there's only a handful of on-street parking here. And also what we would like to see is a tabletop crosswalk. That could be an excellent opportunity. This is it has a design speed that we could potentially have a lower target speed on this road because of the high urban context. So if we could propose, if we're going to be looking into it, about having tabletop crosswalks here to slow traffic down, especially at that underline crossing, which I know is heavily utilized. So if we can keep going east, we'll keep going in that direction, you can continue to see. And like I said, these are not to indicate fully green, but we will be doing green conflict. That would be what I propose. Okay, and so that's this project. Pretty simple there. I mean, not simple, but and as you can see, the bike would then have a little ramp to get onto the wide sidewalk there if they wanted to choose that option. Okay, and then if we can go to the next slide, please. Okay. All right, now this is Kendall. This is Kendall Drive, and this is to connect from the Chrome Path, because we don't have many opportunities for people to access Chrome Path right now. And so what we're wanting to do is to try to find opportunities to connect people. And again, the greens, this is a separate shared use path. So we definitely would not be painting that green. But that's again, just to indicate the facility, which sorry, I almost should probably use like blue or something or another color, but so that's the shared use path. And what we'd be putting a kind of a barrier separated, a guardrail there to protect that, that shared use path from the roadway. And you can keep going, and it would eventually, this is actually called for in the Smart Trails initiative, and I know many of you probably are aware of, but there is a transit facility. If you keep going, there is a transit facility that's off of, if we can zoom out actually.
162.
162, yes. So that's what it would, this is, the hope is to connect to that transit facility. Now I do want to say that once that portion that we've put in green there on 162nd, that's not our facility. We actually, I don't know if we could actually, I'm not sure if we could do that, but it would be a great opportunity as a connection piece. So So we thought, you know what, we'll just show it because that would be a great opportunity to have a nice connection opportunity to the transit facility. So a good first and last mile connection. Okay, and we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, and now this is the big one. This is Lehman Causeway. There's a lot happening here. So what you can see here is what we're trying to do is provide. You can see there's no, that right there, that green crosswalk is because the only thing that is connecting on this side here is a bike facility. It's not providing a pedestrian crossing there because there's no pedestrian access at that point. There's no sidewalk on that other side. So it would be connecting that bike facility that is existing on Biscayne to the Lehman Causeway. And there's actually two opportunities to get on in this proposed concept. There's two potential opportunities to get to destinations along, I guess, along the causeway, and to get to destinations on the beach. So to go fully east-west, and also to kind of take the more scenic route. So the more direct route is the center, and this would be a barrier protected center bike facility. And then the one on the north, just on the north of the causeway, would be more of that scenic option that would kind of take you up and near to like Country Club. So if you keep going east, you can actually eventually, it'll kind of loop up and get connected to that trail there. And that's actually up toward the north there. There's an existing trail. And so connecting to that existing trail and utilizing it. Now with the center, so if you keep going on the center, I think, yeah, keep going east. So this right here, what's being proposed, this is kind of hard to imagine. So what's being proposed is that the roadway kind of stays at the same level, right? But the trail itself will dip down, dip down, dip down, dip down. And then there'll be actually like what's being proposed here in this concept is that there would be a kind of underpass that would go under the roadway, but then connect to that trail, and then keep going and connect all the way into the outside. So you actually would have an opportunity here to get under the roadway kind of, but also to connect to the trail. So it's kind of a very interesting, innovative way to make sure that once somebody gets on that middle section, that kind of like that more direct bike path, that they'd actually have an opportunity to get off and into the side communities, or for instance, if they accidentally got onto it and they wanted to go to one of these other areas, they'd have that means to do so. So this is kind of setting us up for mobility for every single potential opportunity for movement. So another thing that this does is if we go west a little bit again, that one little piece I had not mentioned is you can see it here. There's an existing bike lane you can see how it connects here. We had already kind of shown it here on the south side. Yep, we kind of show it there on the southeast side, and we're just showing how we're proposing a connection so that someone can kind of loop around and go along that bike lane, and then they can again use that kind of underpass to then get onto either the other side of the roadway, to the other side of Lehman, or to get onto the trail itself. So we can keep going. We can keep going east though. Keep going, and then you can also see how it's connecting on the north. So how you're providing that connection to the existing trail. There is an existing trail where that like dotted line, well, not where it's in that proximity of that dotted line. And so you could see that will be then connecting to that existing trail, so they can really leverage that existing infrastructure. Right, and we just keep going, and that will eventually connect you with two different opportunities to get to the beach. And then we're proposing there a safe way to get across and access the beach from that point. So there's a lot happening here. And again, it's in the planning phase, very, very early. But what we really want to see is we want to see, of course, Vision Zero come to life. And we also want to see true mobility enhancements. And we know how utilized this facility already is, even though there's no facility present, really. There's not really a facility. I mean, you can see there in all of these images, you can see people using a limited access causeway, which is very dangerous, and just in whatever way they can. I mean, you can see them using the inside shoulder, the outside shoulder, using the lane itself. So we're hoping to see this one get moved forward and to be programmed into our program. And then with that being said, I guess we can go to the next slide, and then I believe that's all. Yeah. Over.
All right. Thank you, Tiffany. You got questions from Eric and from Yannick. Eric, go ahead.
Okay, a lot going on here, and I wanted to share some of these things. I've sent them to you, but I do want to bring them up to the rest of the BPAC. On project number 1, that's the Lehman Causeway. That's really innovative, but please be sure there is sufficient signage to indicate where all the paths go and where you can get off. Once you're committed to the path, there's little time to change.
Kevin, can you go back to the page before?
Lisa, go back to the
yes. So actually zoom into the bottom corner.
The Lehman Causeway page?
Yeah, the Lehman Causeway page.
Lisa, go forward one page, one sheet.
And then go to the bottom corner, the bottom right-hand corner, where it shows the signs. So these are all what we're proposing, because we would love to see with the bike network. And if you're on the bike network, what we would eventually like to see is that wayfinding is, so if you keep going, sorry, I want to see the signs. The signs
there you go.
There you go. So what we want to see is kind of a branding that tells you, hey, I'm on a network. I'm on something, just like if I'm on 95. I know I'm on something that's just not going to abruptly end. I know I can be reassured that I'm on the right facility to get to where I'm going. So it would be it's kind of a vision to have a branding strategy so that when people get onto the bike network, they know they're on it by the brand that they see. They know they're on a connected facility that isn't just a fragment. So this is kind of some of the ideas that we have, the concepts we have, again, at this very early stage, to have something that would alert people of, hey, this is you're on this type of facility. This is the access points that you can do or get to from this specific trail.
Okay, it looks like you anticipated my comment. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I note on 13th Street that's where phase 1 and phase 2 of the underline joined. And main comment was whenever you have a transition from a bike lane to a sidewalk or a path, it needs to be perpendicular to the bike lane. Some of the transitions looked as though the ramp was off to the side. The ramp needs to be directly from the bike lane to the sidewalk or path.
Noted. I'll make sure we.
Okay, and 88th Street, great connection to the Chrome path. I think it's great. I think they're working in that area right now, but the important thing going forward is we need another one on the north side. It may not need to be a full-size path, but at least an 8-foot sidewalk on the north side, because the people coming from the north side don't want to have to cross 88th Street in order to get to Chrome.
I hear you. Well, we'll look into that. I know that we have some right-of-way constraints, and what we were trying to propose is something that we could implement without purchasing right-of-way, and then adding the time for that purchase. but we will.
Well,
I'll
what I've
definitely-
looked at, I've looked, and I think you can put an 8-foot sidewalk on the north side. But
Okay.
anyway,
Yeah, we'll definitely.
yeah, and the question on South River Drive, I hope people understand that that is an industrial area, and you're providing bike lanes that don't connect with anything. I love bike lanes, but I don't really think they're a good fit in that spot. But
Well, and
if they want to build them, that's fine. But
Well, and that's-
I don't think
and-
they're going to be used.
Yeah, no, and I've made, when I met with the town of Medley previously, and I recommended that. They had mentioned some potential concerns and issues, I think probably with drainage. If I remember, it was over a year ago when I met with them, so. But I know those comments have been made, but I will make sure that they get that message again.
Well, and one of the things that I saw is I don't think they have a continuous sidewalk on the south side, which is an absolute critical. And also the sidewalk on the south side needs to have a curb or something that will keep cars from parking on the sidewalk. You know, otherwise it will be useless. Okay, and I believe I've made various mentions.
Yeah.
I did mention that tabletop crosswalks are good as they act as speed bumps, but it was on Collins Avenue. And,
No, that one, I wish I had a location map in front of me. I'll send you the specific location so you can see. It's not on Collins Avenue. It's kind of like where it there is like a bit of a frontage. So I'll send it to you.
Okay. Yeah, because I checked and I could not find the frontage road even.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I just
if
haven't.
you send me a map, send me a drawing, that'd be great.
Yeah. And yeah, I was meaning this past week has been very, very, very busy. So I apologize for not getting your responses to you yet. But I'm going to block off some time tomorrow morning.
And one thing prior to the talk about the bike network, is that just bicycle or is it bicycle and pedestrian network?
Well, this network is, so this is specifically for a bike network plan. It is. Ultimately, what we'd like to see with pedestrian facilities is that those sidewalks are provided based on the context of the environment. It's almost like a no questions asked type of situation. So what I found is that in the reason I did specifically a bike network, and that's why we push forward with a bike network plan, is because the challenge, first and foremost, the biggest challenge was creating a seamless connection of bike facilities. There wasn't as many issues that at least I'm seeing on my end with connecting sidewalks. I understand, especially when it gets into the more rural context, that's when we're seeing sidewalks not present, but a lot of times in more of the rural context, we want to provide a shared use path anyway, because you want that separation of rural context when a vehicle is not necessarily expecting a cyclist.
Yes, and I found the map very hard to read because it shows the connectors in very heavy lines, and so it doesn't show the other things that are on them, like bike lanes or paths.
So
all you see is the black line.
So I know that everyone has gotten the link in the past. So I can I could share my screen really quick. I don't know how hard that is, but can I share my screen really quick? Okay. All right. So if you have so hopefully everyone will see my screen in just a second. If you go to the link that I sent you for this, you can actually see the different options here. You can see the details, the base map, so the details, the base map, all that. If you go to the content area here, content, and then just check the proposed, you can take off the big connections, because because that will show you the existing and upcoming. And then you can see how the network overlays with the existing and upcoming. Hopefully that helps.
Okay, all right, fine. I didn't know that trick. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Alrighty,
I figured it out because I needed to.
So Eric, are you done?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. Next we have Yannick. Go ahead.
Yes, a question for Tiffany. This is going to be pretty quick. For 13th Street, at the intersection of 2nd Avenue, is the study looking at signalization improvement?
Well, we're coupling this into a triple R project, but because I want to just dot all my I's and cross all my T's. So what I'm doing at those intersections, I want to look at just a general kind of operational turning movement, kind of like how those intersections are operating. So I know that what we can do as we're looking at that, we can look to see what type of backups are happening. And then we can, of course, once we review that, and if we notice that some signalization improvements can be put in place, I know that we can make those recommendations. So
right. For that intersection specific, you have a lot of left turns for people going northbound on 2nd. I know, and that's why I'm having, because I see it all the time, and I see people get very angry and start to honk because they're in that other lane and they just don't understand what the holdup is. But it's because people are trying to turn and there's no means to do that. So I see it at Brickell, and I see it at 2nd, because I'm out there quite frequently. I like to go, walking up to the underline or riding my bike up there. So I see it a lot. So these projects are not funded for construction yet, right?
Okay, so work program is we're going through a work program cycle right now where we are kind of determining how we're going to cover the cost of our projects in the 5-year work program. Typically, we always look at the new 5th year, and that's where our bread and butter is, right? So if a big project is coming in, a lot of times, what we'll have to do, because all these other years are already previously programmed, we have to just put the big projects into the new 5th year. However, 408, it was a resurfacing project that was already programmed within the 5 years. And I reviewed it and said, we need to jump on this and add the bike facilities, because we need to have bike facilities here to connect to the underline, to connect to all these other things. We have multiple city bike, bike share stations along this stretch. We have multiple connection opportunities. So we're proposing, and we already have gotten it in the scope. We just need to find the funding to cover the cost of adding the bike lanes to Corway, but it's already in the scope for the upcoming program project.
Okay.
So that one's good, but the other ones we'll probably be pushing into the new 5th year.
Okay, and for 88th Street, as you get closer to Chrome Avenue, it showed the path separated from the right-of-way line. Any specific reason for that?
It might be because of the drainage, the slope in that area to handle the drainage. That may be it. I can ask my consultants on that, because I know we were getting, for a lot of the sections, we were like just on the right-of-way line, kind of, pushing it.
Okay, thanks. These are great projects, by the way, and 88th Street is highly needed, the rest as well. And thank you for presenting. Very good.
Yeah. Well, you guys always do a great job, so I feel like we need to step up our game.
All right. Thank you, Yannick. Next is Francisco, and then we'll close this item.
So yeah, real quick, staying on Kendall Drive. I didn't see the connections off of the renderings you were showing for 167. I see that you have a proposed connection here, but I didn't know if your new path had that connection at 167th as well, to the north or south.
Can here?
Do you need to see? Do you need to,
Yeah,
do
can
you
we
need
see
to
it
see the
again?
map, Francisco? Okay.
So yeah, if we can. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Back one. Here it is. Keep go all the way west to where the green goes all the way west. Okay, so the 167. You mean from the south, though, correct?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that you looked at what's planned and proposed, and you had all the corrections that were needed.
Because yeah, there's I'll have to look to see the proposed on 167th to see how we're, just to make sure we're in alignment with that.
And then as far as the proposed trail for the Kendall Parkway, is that happening, or we don't know anything about that?
I'm not sure, actually. I don't know if Carlos Sejas is still on the call. He might be able to help.
I'm here.
Yeah,
Can
he's
you
still
hear me?
here.
Yeah, Carlos, did you guys, when you guys were looking at this, so thank Janet Fleming for a lot of their excellent work in helping with this. Do you know if that's the Kendall Parkway project? If that was, if we looked into that?
The Kendall Parkway is barely hanging on to being a project. I mean, ultimately there will be a political decision, but right now it doesn't look like it's going to happen. But no, I mean, we are just, our goal here with this was just make this connection to the terminal from Chrome. That's basically what we were doing. We could expand the scope to look at, you know, other connections, but that's really what we're trying to do, is just connect to the terminal station there. It was a limited scope.
Yeah, no, I was just checking on that project because as I understood it, some of the paths on 157th Avenue that presented to us were removed with the assumption that there was going to be an additional trail in the neighborhood with the Kendall Parkway project.
Yeah, no, they've planned on the initial concepts I saw. They did plan a continuous along the Kendall Parkway. They did plan some shared use paths, you know, to be determined, because they never finalized anything. But other than that, I haven't seen anything else, and nothing to this level of detail. From what I saw was very conceptual. This is good. The idea of this is to take this, you know, quickly right into design and get these projects built quickly.
Mm-hmm. And that's why, and this type of project hopefully wouldn't be because of the minimal impacts to drainage and no right-of-way acquisition and really no environmental impact. It shouldn't require a PD&E, which is that project development and environment study that I know Victor Dover was mentioning earlier.
Can I ask Yannick about 157th Avenue and the trail that was removed from that roadway project?
That was done by DPW, as far as I know. I mean,
yeah, he's saying Yannick.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Yes. What exactly? What information you need to provide? I'm sorry. You need me to provide?
Yeah, so on 157th Avenue, the portions that are being planned for construction now, the last time you presented to BPAC, you were showing how the roadway widening was going to be used only for more vehicles, and the adjacent trail facility was not going to be able to fit. And I believe some of the rationale behind that was the fact that the Kendall Parkway was also installing a trail nearby.
Correct. Yeah, that was the information given to me. Correct. And at this point, as Carlos mentioned, no additional information on the Kendall Parkway has been provided yet, and nothing is set in stone. So at this moment, we don't know how that's going to be handled. And the project, the highway project that we have on 157 does not include up to now that path, because it was supposed to be done by the Kendall Parkway.
So, so I mean, it seems kind of like a kind of a big problem if we're deleting one path, expecting another one that's not going to get built. We're shooting ourselves in the foot here. So I don't know, Kevin, what, I know it's a virtual workshop, but this really seems like something that should merit some sort of action.
Understood, but unfortunately, like I said, everything here is more of informational, and we have to treat it as such. And until we get back into the in-person meetings and so forth, we cannot take any actions.
Can I just share my screen one more time? Sorry. I'm gonna share my screen one more time just to show how this plays a part in, again, what we have for the bike network plan. So that just knowing that it could potentially feed into even other connections that might not be just the ones that you're describing. So you could see, yeah, you could see that, yeah, some of these other facilities that you're talking about, but in essence, this big black bold line on 88th, that's the desire line for a countywide connector. Again, we have to do a lot more feasibility analysis and more study to see, you know, how whether this full connection is feasible, but that's the desire line. And if we have to kind of shift it off and come back, I mean, that's what it is, but this is kind of our direction as far as right now, the desire of what we'd like to go forward with eventually. And of course, I mean, there are quite a few connections that it is making and a lot of potential links. So I hope that was able to help a little bit on the conversation. Any other questions? Any other concerns?
I have a question for Tiffany. This is Mark Heineke.
Mm-hmm.
Will the landscape on the Chrome Path include root barriers?
On Chrome Path, I've made that recommendation. Actually, I made that recommendation to Kevin Schott already, like pretty early. Like, so I'll see if that's included. I hope. I hope, because that's going to be a real help. So I'll take a look and see if it's being included.
Okay. And then the other comment was for the underpass, the tunnels on the causeway. Be sure to include lighting for the tunnels.
And we have to really look at drainage and make sure we're not creating like kind of a deluge or a pool
Right.
there. Yeah. So there's a couple things that we want to keep our eye on, and also making sure that we don't also create a very uncomfortable situation of heat along this long stretch of the Lehman Causeway. So using the appropriate materials and trying to design to make it a fairly cool ride. When I say cool, not like hip or something, temperature wise.
Right.
Mhm. All right. If any other questions, thank you very much, Tiffany.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
All right, and before we close, I just want to mention that the BPAC members, it's sent an email out to you earlier this afternoon. I wanted to mention at the beginning of the meeting, but I didn't. We're having the TPO is having two task force workshops virtual tomorrow at 1 p.m. and Thursday after the TPO board meeting, and in that they're going to be going over our non-urban and urban task force initiatives. When we're trying to improve the intersections for certain locations for bicyclists and pedestrians to be crossing the intersections, and also excuse me, having green bike lanes being an integral part of that. So if you want to participate in those two workshops, Just look at the email that I sent earlier today, and then you'll be able to find out more information on that. Other than that, the next workshop is, one second, Eric. The next workshop is going to be on July 13th at the same time, and most likely the same Zoom platform. Yes, Eric.
Yes, could you send us agendas or something for that? I signed up for it, but I don't know what they're going to be talking about at all.
I know there's not an agenda. It's just that's just the link. That what I sent you is what is available. It's just going to be, like I said, a discussion with the various board members and such about these projects. But there is no like design set agenda that I'm aware of.
Yes, I hope everybody realizes that tomorrow 11 o'clock is virtual, and
1 o'clock. 1 o'clock.
Sorry, at 1 o'clock is virtual, and the one on Thursday is in person.
So, all right. So that being said, everyone have a good night and a good rest of the week. Meeting adjourned. 8:28.